Hello and welcome to Conversations with the Candidates. I'm Danny Vittori, and today we have incumbent Essex Sheriff candidate Kevin Coppinger. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Danny. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. And so first, would you just mind telling the voters a little bit about yourself? Take about a minute or so.
Yep. As you said, I'm the incumbent sheriff. I've been sheriff for 5.5 years. And prior to that, I was a police officer in the city of Lynn for 32 years. The last 7 of those years, I was the chief of police. And when my predecessor, the previous sheriff, decided to retire, I decided to throw my hat in the ring and run for sheriff because I thought I could make a difference and bring some change into the world of corrections. And we've been doing a lot of that for the last 5.5 years. And as you know, I'm up for re-election. I want to run again. I want to be re-elected again because I think we can do some more good in what we're doing.
Definitely, sure. So what do you believe is the job of the Essex County Sheriff, the main job?
The Sheriff's Department actually it's a very large and complex agency. It says we have 600 employees, another 200 vendors and volunteers. We're part of the criminal justice system. We service the courts. We support local law enforcement. We support cities and towns upon need. But our main priority is the safe and secure operation of the jail and house of correction. We're the second largest in the state in terms of a jail and house of correction with about 1,150 inmates. So we need to make sure keep in mind, the inmates are sent to us by the courts, or they've been convicted by a judge or a jury. So in addition to being a safe institution, we also look into, while these folks are with us, what services or what programs can we offer to them so we can help treat whatever issues that they're dealing with the ultimate goal that when these inmates leave us and return back to their communities, they return in better shape than when they arrived, and hopefully they stay in their communities to be productive members of the community and not come back and visit us at the jail or stay with us at the jail.
Right, of course. And you are currently the sheriff, but what would you say would be the top 3 issues you'd tackle as sheriff if reelected?
Well, as I said, the first one is safety. Because it is a jail and a house of correction, we have, like I said, about 1,150 inmates. We have inmates from all ranges of allegations or who have been convicted of crimes. We have over 400 inmates that have been sentenced, that are there awaiting trial for some of the most heinous crimes: murder, child rapists, armed robbery, home invasions, all the way down to folks who were in there with what we call low-risk crimes, maybe simple drug possession, a repeat drunk driving offense, maybe a larceny. So one of the things we try to do is look at why are they here, and 2 of the big issues we find are substance use disorders, part of the opiate epidemic, and mental illness. So while they're in the jail, each inmate upon arrival there's an assessment done on the individual to see what his or her needs are. And then as they get in the custody with us, we offer over 100 different programs so we can tailor these programs to the inmates to accomplish what I mentioned before, meaning, what can we do, what can we offer them while they're in our custody? Hopefully they'll take advantage of it because we can't force them upon it, but we can help them deal with the addiction issues. For example, we have a clean and sober existence unit, so if somebody wants to come in and just go, like the old saying, cold turkey, we can do that under medical care, medical supervision, and then we can give them the clinical part of it to help them, resist the addiction urges. And we don't want them to go back and re-offend with drug charges. If somebody wants to go on medication-assisted treatment, we've been offering that for the last 3 years, which means we offer methadone, Suboxone or Subutex, as well as Vivitrol, which are 3 medications that are nationally recognized to help manage an addiction issue so they can continue to be productive members of our communities. And then Vivitrol is another one that just blocks the receptors in your brain so the individuals they don't get that urge to use the drugs. So we have specific units to house those folks, and then a lot of the programming so they can learn how to say no to drugs, like the old saying, just resist those urges. But mental health is a huge issue for us now. It is in society everywhere. And about half of our inmates suffer from mental illness. So we've tried to address that in a number of ways. We created a special housing unit about 2 years ago, where we took the individuals out of what you might think is a traditional 8x10 concrete cell you might see on TV, and moved these individuals into what we call a dormitory-style housing unit with about 35 other inmates. And then we brought in extra clinicians, and we embedded them in the unit during the regular workday. So now the inmates, if they're having a bad day, they almost get treatment on demand. The clinicians are there. By the way, we have over 30 licensed social worker clinicians working in our employ, and I also hired a director of clinical services who was a woman with 27 years of experience in the trade. And she's got a wonderful tact with the inmates. She's very knowledgeable, very dedicated. So we're always trying to find a better way to help the needs of the inmates. But we found with this unit, this dormitory style unit, just by doing this, we've reduced a lot of the anxiety levels, which means the inmates aren't acting out, which is something you don't want them to do in a jail, which means our officers, our staff, don't have to confront them and try to restrain them at all, because we now have a better system where they're getting the treatment they needed, they're more relaxed, and they're more productive as we go through the regular workday.
Oh, great. Yeah. Those sound like very, very good programs. And you did talk about it a little bit, but why do you believe that your qualifications and your past experiences make you the best candidate to continue to be sheriff?
Well, I mentioned my many years here in Lynn. I love the city of Lynn. I still live here. Lynn has issues, I mean, we've dealt with crime in the city for many, many years. I've grown to understand the root causes of crime, as I mentioned. Again, substance use disorders and mental illness are part of those things. I've seen both sides of it. I've seen victims. Can't forget the victims. I've seen victims at their worst when they've been preyed upon by individuals alleged to have committed crimes. And I've also seen the solutions. That's why I ran for sheriff, as I said in the opening. There's got to be a better way to do it. So when I got into the jail, we put together these different programs, and we now have over 100 different programs, again, just to give the inmates that extra chance. We do educational programs. A lot of the inmates have never finished high school, so we brought in Northern Essex Community College and Merrimack College into the jail, and they teach on a regular basis every day. The inmates, they'll get that high school equivalency, now called HiSET, or they'll even teach them college-level courses. We also have a number of vocational programs where we teach the inmates a trade, so when they get out, they'll go to work. Something like OSHA, so they can work in the construction industry. ServSafe, they can work in the restaurant industry. We have a program called CTech. They can work in fiber optic cabling or Cat 5, Cat 6 cabling and construction. And our flagship, I guess you could call it, is the Hardscape program, where we teach the inmates how to build masonry walkways and patios and walls for around property to beautify residences. And when the inmates get released, a lot of the employees out there are just grabbing them up because they have a skill, they have a trade. And it's working out so well. We actually did a job fair inside the jail earlier this summer, in early July. We brought in a dozen potential employers in the library, inside the facility, and the inmates went around and they did like a resume. You give them a resume, you go up and talk, you get interviewed. It was great, and some of the guys got jobs waiting for them when they get out. So it's one of the things where that's what we're trying to do, and that's where I think I bring the most experience, because it is a law enforcement agency. You've got to remember that. We've got some serious criminals in there. I've seen root causes of crime. I've seen productive measures to reduce those root causes of crime, which I'm talking about. And I've also seen how we can help the cities and towns through the law enforcement piece of it when it's needed and when it's necessary. Quite often we go into cities and towns upon their request. I mean, I know we're in Lynn, but next door in Salem, Haunted Happenings, the month of October. We're in there helping Salem quite a bit. So we have a lot of resources that we dedicate. I have a lot of experience in the criminal justice field, and I do think I'm the best candidate because of all that. And now we're bringing it to fruition to kind of at the end of the food chain in the criminal justice system, dealing with the inmates so they have a better chance to not come back and see us.
Yes, it does. That sounds really good. And again, you've talked about this, but how do you think you have or would take your vision for the sheriff position and have made it into a reality? How do you think you've done that?
Well, I think I mentioned a lot of this stuff. We've looked at those addiction issues, and we've come up with a program. Treatment. We bring in, actually, we have healthcare companies and clinical staff, a company called Spectrum Healthcare Services. We brought in experts in the field and evidence-based practices to provide the proper treatment and programming for them. We looked at the educational piece of it, so now they have that. We take the vocational piece of it, we have that. We've actually gone another step further, actually during COVID kind of helped us out, we went out and we got tablets, computer tablets like Bill Belichick might have on the sidelines in every Sunday in the fall. So now the inmates are provided with the tablets so they can communicate with families a little bit easier at home, and they can make phone calls from it. They can also receive mail now directly, not email, because they can't have access to the internet just for security purposes, but their mail now comes scanned into the tablet, and they can also continue the programming piece of it that I was talking about, almost like doing homework. So we brought that up to another level to provide better services. And again, it's just the whole picture of trying to have an environment where instead of just the old school culture was lock them up and throw away the key. That's gone 20 odd years ago. That's old school thinking. Now you got to say, okay, here's the problem. How do we identify the solutions? Let's put the solutions into reality, and then let's watch and make sure that it's coming out right. And if it's not, we'll adjust. So I think we've done that. I know we've done that, and we've got a great staff up there who we've put together that look at it all different angles, and it seems to be working very, very well.
Definitely, for sure. And I know you've talked a lot about the programs. What would you say is still maybe one of the biggest improvements you'd still want to make to the prisons?
I'm glad you asked that question, because if I am reelected, my vision for the second term would be let's think outside the box. Let's go to the next step. Let's raise that bar in corrections, which is what I've tried to do so far to now. But now let's go up to the next level. For example, I mentioned it briefly, but inmate employment after incarceration. That's big, because when these guys, and I say guys, but it's the men and the women, when they get out of jail, a lot of them don't have an employment, and a lot of them are estranged from their families and whatever. So we have a work release program while they're incarcerated with us at our pre-release centers up in Lawrence and in Salisbury. So we take them out on a daily basis to work. And then they work, we pick up and deliver. If we have any employers that are on TV that are watching the show right now, if you want to hire them, great, give us a call. Uncle Sam will give you a tax break on your income taxes at the end of the year. But we pick up and deliver. The inmates get a salary, but they stay with us. They don't get paid right away, but we put the money on account for them. So when they're released, they get a check. So hopefully they can do first month or last month rent for an apartment, so that now they have a roof over their head, and they got to step up to get stabilized. And the other piece of what I would like to do in the next step of raising the bar in corrections is the I'm drawing a blank with my head. Post-incarceration transitional housing. Okay. So right now, again, they come out, they're living in the shelters, they're living on the streets. We partnered up with another one of our fellow service agencies, the Volunteers of America, with a nice grant from the U.S. Department of Labor. We have some money there for transitional housing, so when they're coming out of the jail, we can help set them up again with a roof over their head to get them more acclimated and back into the community.
Yeah, great, definitely. Good idea. And I believe this is a program you started, but what changes or expansions would you make to the STAR program? Did I say that right, the acronym? STAR is short for Supporting Transition and Reentry. Now, everything I just described over the last few minutes, all the programs, all the treatment services, all the mental health and social and substance use disorders, everything we do there now, we want to make sure the inmates continue those services when they leave us. So we started 2 offices. One is here in Lynn and one is up in Lawrence. And we have staffed it with our folks, but we also bring in, again, Spectrum Health Services, who do a lot of the clinical support. But all those programs we do, they are available to the inmates upon release at the STAR program. So if they're starting just a treatment plan, and they can come back in here into the local STAR office. We work closely with the courts, with probation. So they might be on a court mandate, but they're still coming in. We're open days and evenings, so there's hours, so they can continue to be working in their jobs, continue to spend time with their family. But STAR takes it to another level. So we met with many of the judges in the county, and explain to them, sometimes a judge has a person in front of them, maybe they want to send them to jail, maybe they don't, like they're on that bubble. So now the judges can actually sentence somebody to the STAR program without sending him to the jail. And that way they can still make them come, and they have to report 3 or 4 days a week, whatever the judge or the probation officers determine. We can set the schedule. The program we have is an evidence-based curriculum that really is based on the strengths and weaknesses of the individual, so we're giving them individualized treatment. And the last piece of this, and I'm going to give Lynn Police a little attaboy, because the bicycle unit, you're probably familiar with down here in downtown Lynn, they actually came to us and they said, we have people on the street or in our patrol sectors that we know might need these services, but they're not involved in the criminal justice system.
Can they come? We said, absolutely, let them come in. It's free, it's voluntary, at least for that part of it, and they can come in and they can take advantage of these services free of charge right here at the Multi-Service Center in Lynn. So it's like a win-win for everybody, and it's just another piece of just how do we better service everybody in the criminal justice system. But I think this has got so much versatility to it that it's working well, and it will continue to be even better as we go forward.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And this is just our last question, and you've already touched on it a bit, but how do you think we can reduce recidivism?
Recidivism.
Right.
And that's what we're doing. We're putting together the programs. We're addressing the needs of the inmates. And, you know, the recidivism rates across the country are high. But you think of a jail and a house of correction, we're a transient place. We're not like the Department of Corrections where you get sentenced for 20 years or life or something like that. We have a lot of people coming in and out. Our recidivism rate was 47% last year. 2 years ago. It dropped to 42% by a lot of what we're doing with the programs. If the inmate stays with us longer and does more of the programs and gets into the step-down process we have where they go into all that work release stuff I mentioned, that rate drops to 31. So we have the resources there. So it's good. We dropped 5 points last year, so we know what we're doing is working, and we're encouraged to do even better. But the problem with recidivism rates, when you look at them, is how do you define them? And because we're so transient, you know, you got to keep in mind the courts send these individuals to us, and some of these folks, to be honest, are career criminals. You know, you can offer every program in the world to them. They need to have the desire to participate. If they don't participate, then they're going to go back in and out of the system.
Right. Yes. And so that was the last question.
Last question.
Yeah, so I just wanted to thank you again for coming in, for sharing some of your viewpoints. It's been great to have you on.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. I appreciate your time.
All right.
Awesome.
Of course. Thank you. And once again, I'm Danny Vittori. This has been Conversations with the Candidates. Join us next time for another candidate.